Hello and welcome to Trucks. On tonight's show, Brian's hitting the road with a Volkswagen Caddy to see if VW really does live up to its lofty reputation. And of course, Tim will be skipping along with the Daf LF and we'll be trying to solve your problems in Truckers' Gripes. Now, so far on Trucks, we've been looking at the more glamorous side of the industry. New truck and van launches, exotic locations, warm factories. But tonight, Tim, that's not the case, is it?
It certainly isn't. This week we're getting down and dirty, and when I say dirty, I mean really dirty. This week we're into the world of industrial cleaning.
Lovely.
Industrial drain cleaning may sound unappealing, but it requires some serious investment in technology. This Renault tanker, for instance, costs around £85,000 when new. It's capable of carrying around 1,000 gallons of water, which can be pressurised up to 2,000 psi via a hose and lance, and then used to clear blockages. It can also act as a vacuum to pick up waste.
I don't know about you, Tim, but when they told me what we were going to be doing this week, I wasn't altogether happy.
I know exactly what you mean, but despite its dirty reputation, there's some serious technology at work here, I can tell you. And to tell us a little bit more about it is our friend Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hiya.
So tell us a bit more about this industrial cleaning malarkey then. What's it all about?
It's not actually industrial cleaning, it's industrial drain clearance.
Oh, that's the official title here at this company, yeah?
Yes.
OK, so tell me, what sort of drains do you clean? Whereabouts do you go?
Whoa, come on, we're late as it is. Let's get out on the road.
Oh, that sounds like a good idea. OK, so we're up and running now. We're on the road. Where's our first port of call?
Altrincham Grammar School.
Right, and what's the problem now?
There's a fat trap and it's got full. The fat's got down the drain and it seems to have blocked an interceptor trap up at the front of the school.
So we're coming up to the school now, aren't we?
Yes.
How can you tell that?
Because I sort of know where it is.
All right, you know what I mean. I was really impressed by that for a second.
I had a feeling in my water as I went over that speed bump.
Yeah, I thought it might.
There's a school approaching. We've arrived at the school and Mike and Dave have already started working over there. And it's now come to that time where I say, au revoir, Tim. Hand you a brand spanking new pair of gloves and head for the canteen.
Thank you very much. How did I know I was going to get this end of the job? So, Mike, Dave, what's going on in here? What have we got here?
Hi, Tim.
Hiya, mate.
This is where we think the root cause of the blockage is. We think that's probably built up with fat and blocked solid. So we're going to use this long lance. It'll have about 1,500, 2,000 pounds worth of pressure on it. And we're going to blast through.
We think what's blocking this is what?
Fat.
Fat, yeah. So this is a regular thing for you. So it's typically you just start off here and then work your way back to maybe where it's happened, because this might not be the main reason for it.
Yes, that's right.
All right, brilliant. Yeah. OK, brilliant. Let's get on with it then. Let's have a look. Okay. Get the kit out.
As Mike suspected, the problem with the drains at this school is related to every woman's worst nightmare, a build-up of fat in the system. So I suppose you could say this is the colonic irrigation of the trucking world. The first job for Mike is to detect where the blockage is and break it down into smaller globules of fat. This in turn releases the blockage and the drains are back in action.
Well, that's it. The lads are packing up. We're off to the next job, and it's over to Brian, who's testing the Volkswagen Caddy.
So you're looking at buying a light commercial. Why buy a white commercial when you can buy a bright commercial? I mean, look at this. Lovely little Volkswagen Caddy, bright red. You couldn't get better than that, could you? A nice bright red colour. You're certainly going to be noticed, definitely going to be seen. So let's go and give it a road test, shall we? OK, let's see what the Volkswagen Caddy will do on the road. Now the first thing we notice when we've got in the cab, it is quite compact. There's not a lot of room in here actually. If you're pretty tall or a bit on the bulky side, it's going to be a tight squeeze. Now, small vans sometimes do tend to feel a little light and bouncy. You get thrown around like a pea in a colander. But this is very firm. You feel that the van's actually going to stay on the road, and remember we don't have any weight in the back. Well, the inside of the cab is very small indeed. There's a lot of space, a lot of places to put things. Outside styling, very nice. It's a pretty little van, certainly pleasing to the eye, small enough to get in and out of those little places in town. Plenty of grunt from the 1.9. Turbo diesel, it's got a lot of power there. And with all that torque, you've got plenty of performance around town. It is fully loaded with a 500 kilos, which it will carry. It will certainly pop in and out of all the little streets around town. Now, service intervals on this particular vehicle are around about the 10,000 miles. It's 15,000 kilometres, which equates back to about 9,300 miles, but 10,000 miles for a service. The only thing you've got to watch, Volkswagens are a little costly to get serviced if you're taking them back to main dealers, but you will get good service and you'll get things like cam belts, brake fluid changes at the proper intervals, which of course are a necessity. The cabin's nice and comfortable, although not very spacious. Now, I'm only 5'9", and with the steering wheel tilted right up, the seat right back, my knees touch the bottom of the steering wheel. There is also above us a nice storage box, but does reduce the head height. Now, behind us, we've got a plastic cage here. It's a nice idea, but it's not going to last long. Right, the Volkswagen Caddy, now we've driven it, what do we think of it? They do two diesel engines on those. We've got the turbo diesel engine, which we've road tested, and they do a normal aspirated engine. Now, both engines are readily available. They both return roughly the same fuel consumptions. So really, it just depends on what power you want. Servicing intervals on them are thereabouts on the 10,000 mile mark on both of them. So they are a good little van. We've looked at it, we've road tested it. Now, it's German engineering, so it's bound to be a good van, and it is. It's a good little van. Is it the van you'd be buying, though, if you were looking for a small commercial? Is it?
Well, the Caddy might be a good van, Brian, but it wouldn't be much use for industrial drainage, the main focus for this week's show.
Do you find it's quite a competitive business? There are a lot of people doing this?
No, not really.
So you have
It is quite competitive, but there's not that many companies with these kind of vehicles.
Right.
Because of the capital cost, is it, boy? £85,000 people just gone.
Yeah. It's amazing the cross-section of actual physical work that you have to do. It's not just going and clearing your drain, is it? There's all sorts of elements.
Oh, my job's really, really good and really interesting.
Yeah.
People think that I deal in sewage and what have you, but that's quite rare, that really.
Yeah.
Fully loaded in clean water. We've probably got about 1,000 gallons or so.
1,000 gallons?
Yeah.
What does that weigh then? What sort of weight are we talking about there?
4 tonnes.
About 4 tonnes?
But it's 4 tonnes on top of what we're already carrying.
Right.
So does that slow the vehicle down then?
Yes.
By how much?
Well, as soon as we hit a hill, you'll see this starts dropping then.
We don't go backwards though, do we?
No.
No, that's all right.
This is a very powerful engine. Yeah. Some of the others nearly stop.
Oh my God, murder. Has the environmental protection act made a big difference to your business and how you actually function, if you like?
It affects the paperwork quite a lot. It is a fair bit of paperwork to do, but I do all that myself.
Right.
So I don't leave it to anyone else where things get lost or mislaid. And it's quite a hefty fine if you don't adhere to the legislation. We are always busy. Right. We never sat around.
There's not a season, is there not, then, for this sort of job?
Sometimes it does go a bit quiet, and then we do essential maintenance on things then. But generally, every single day, we're out and we're busy.
As we all know, driving is great fun, but all good things have to come to an end. Join us after the break when we'll be reaching our final destination, a restaurant with blocked drains. Plus, Tim will be driving the Daf LF skip, and we'll have some more truckers' gripes.
Hello and welcome back to Trucks. On tonight's show we've been taking a look at gully wagons to see how they're keeping everything spick and span. Be sure to stay with us to see how later. But first, if I asked any of you, could you have fun with a skip? I'm sure the answer would be not many, but I know a man who can.
Today we're going to be testing an 18-tonner, a vehicle that's got competitors all around it, but perhaps its biggest competitor is actually its big brother. Daf is the name of the manufacturer. When it comes to 18-tonners, they're the UK's market leader. But interestingly, they have two completely different ranges at this weight sector. The 65 and the vehicle we're going to be testing today, the 55. So the balance in sales is definitely in favour of the 55 series. So we're going to find out what makes this the best-selling vehicle. First of all, one of the things you notice, or I expected really, was the fact it would be the same as a 7.5 tonner. And whilst I can see the cab is very similar, it doesn't feel like the same cab. That's quite surprising to me. The 55 series is available with two engines at 18 tonnes. We've got the 185 horsepower and we've got this vehicle which is a 220 horsepower. This is the Paco 5.9 litre engine, and I must admit it's got nice torque, it's got some great oomph in it. You feel like there's a bit of power behind it, and certainly I'd recommend it for anything to skip. I would have thought the 185 must be slightly underpowered. Cross cab access limited. It's got an intrusion, tunnel intrusion of around about 5 or 6 inches, which is just enough to say, well, it doesn't help cross cab access, and the gear lever itself also prevents you from getting across there. So definitely not one where you need to be getting out, in and out from the passenger side. The style of the 55 series is very similar to the whole LF range and has good clean and uncluttered looks. As well as 2 power ratings, it also is available in an astonishing 8 wheelbases. Thing you want in a skip is good visibility. Let's not forget, we're in crowded areas normally, you're picking up skips from all over the place, you really need to see what's going on. So we've got great vision, nice deep front windscreen, and more importantly at the back we've obviously got a nice window at the back there with great visibility, rearward visibility. So again, perfect for what you want. Noise, brilliant. I must admit, I do like it. I don't know whether it's because you're quite high off, or you seem quite off away from the engine. You seem quite remote from it because it's sat up quite high. The cab is actually sat up quite high off the engine, and that really has, whilst it makes the cab access, you've got an extra couple of steps in there, or an extra step. It means the fact that you are remote from it, therefore you don't hear it as much. It's very low on tick over and also on revs as well. Really, really nice. The Paco 5.9 litre engine is rated at 220 brake horsepower and 820 Newton meters torque. This is matched to a ZF 6-speed gearbox. It has disc brakes all round, and has a great unladen weight that starts at 4,950 kilograms. Well, you might remember earlier in the series we test drove the LF at 7.5 tonnes, and I must admit I was expecting more of the same. Well, that wasn't the case. The cab had been trimmed out for the needs of the skip user, and the drive line is exactly the same. In fact, I've had lots of fun with this skip.
See, I knew Tim could have fun with the skip. OK, it does help that it's part of the Daf LF. But anyway, skipping along, bad joke, it's now time for that part of the programme where we take a look at the pressing problems within the trucking industry in Truckers' Gripes.
In 1973, the United Kingdom became part of the European Union. One of the attractions of the Union to the UK was the opportunity for closer and freer economic ties. Unfortunately, however, the haulage industry doesn't seem to have been consulted because there are very few benefits to the industry. So what do you think about foreign haulage companies being allowed to operate in the UK?
Well, it's fair for competition, but I think they should be taxed the way that the British drivers are taxed for going over to Europe. And then everything would be brought into line. We're all meant to be in the EU, so we all should be paying the same amount of tax.
It's a European market, we operate in their countries. Personally, I've got nothing against it. Obviously, it's going to affect our market, but you know what I mean? We affect theirs. It's fair play, isn't it?
Despite freer trade links, the day-to-day costs for hauliers operating in the UK are higher than many parts of Europe. Cheaper road tax and lower fuel costs are just some of the benefits that our drivers miss out on. The problem is, however, that it is the UK government that is inflicting these cripplingly high costs and not Brussels. So with this in mind, how well do you feel the UK government have addressed the unfair competition from European hauliers?
Yeah, it's not fair. They said they was going to bring the new tax on for the wagon drivers to come and pay a tax, which they never come into force or nothing. So basically, the government aren't interested. It's not their problem, so I think they look at it. Just ignore it.
If you're a working man, they don't want to bother. It's like with all farming and everything. All into that type of stuff. They don't want to know, do they? Unless you're from a big town, they're not bothered.
They just got blinkers on. They just don't care about us anymore, and they just don't want us on the road. And they just want to tax us out the game, get us off the road, and finish us there.
Despite the government's insistence that the tax system in the UK is fair, the reality of the matter is that they are crippling the UK haulage industry. One of the supposed benefits of being part of the European Union was better trade and economic links. At the moment, the rest of Europe is benefiting while we suffer, and until the government realises this, the UK haulage industry will not be able to compete fairly.
You've got another job to go to?
Yes.
Where's that?
Bazooki by night.
OK, so what do they want doing there?
He was a bit unclear about that. He said he wanted the drains jetted, but I don't actually know what the specific problem is. They do produce food. Right, so it could quite easily be fat that's in the drains. But they won't actually see that immediately. All they'll see first is that they've got a blocked drain.
Yeah. Right.
They won't know that that's...
It seems to me like fat and grease seem to be your staple diet, Mike. Is that right?
Oh, fat's bad news.
One of the problems with Mike's job is that even if he's been briefed on the phone by the customer, he never really knows what's lying in store for him. It could be anything from blocked toilets to heavy flooding. And to make things even more interesting, during the day their scheduled jobs can change.
What's your button, Matt?
Ready to get working? So guys, where do you want me? What do I have to do?
Right, now, what you've got to do is find which way out the pipe where it goes.
Right.
By prodding around and seeing where the deepest point is. That feels like masonry to me.
That's deeper there. So you've got to find the pipe hole.
Yeah. It's going to go out one of 4 ways.
It stinks, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think Tim should have been doing this.
You need to get on your knees to do it properly.
Oh, well, you're on your knees, so you can do it then. It's a bit smelly.
The first thing for Mike and Dave to do is to try and loosen the blockage. To do this, they use a combination of high-pressured hose and, of course, good old-fashioned muscle power. While While clearing the initial blockage, Mike and Dave discovered that there was another problem. Somehow one of the drain covers in the restaurant had collapsed and masonry had fallen down into the drain. Over time, the masonry had washed further through until it had become lodged in between the internal and external drains. Unlike inside, however, the only tool that the guys used here was the pressure hose. But even with 2,000 pounds of pressure, Mike and Dave were still unable to fully clear the drains. With time getting on and the blockages showing no sign of moving, Mike and Dave decide to pack up and come back another day to finish the job, which is good for Tim and I, because it means we finally get to sit somewhere warm and less smelly.
We're back at the office now at Main Drain, and we're going to have a chat with Mike about what went on in the Greek restaurant.
So, Mike, tell us what actually went on there then.
Well, he was very reluctant about paying for the 3 hours, even though he'd told us initially that he only wanted his toilets cleaned for Christmas, when in actual fact they were half full of debris, grease, whatever you name it.
And is that normal? Do you normally find that happens?
No.
No.
Someone dropped a manhole cover down there in the past and just left it down there.
So where was the manhole cover? It really begs the question, what happened to that? What were they covering it?
He wouldn't come across with that. I kept asking him that question. And he said it's that piece of wood there, which was a piece of kitchen top.
Yep.
Thanks, Mike. That brings us to the end of this week's show, but be sure to join us next week when...
Brian will be road testing Britain's best loved van, the Ford Transit, and I'll be out on the road with a really rare sight, an Isuzu 7.5 tonner.
Until then,
Goodbye.